The top voted question, pretty sure you can Google it, but we'll answer it here anyways. Are anonymous functions in render functions, i.e. in maps or in map calls or as callbacks for events, considered a performance issue? Because many patterns or many examples show this pattern. So that's are anonymous functions in render functions, like in callbacks, considered a performance issue?
They are indeed.
Yeah, it's true. All right, this is going to be quick. Or will it? The next question that is most upvoted. TypeScript or Flow? Yes. Really. I mean, I don't think anyone here actually works on Flow or on TypeScript, but probably everybody uses Flow.
I use both.
Okay. Well then, Lee, why don't you discuss?
You can't go wrong. Pick one. Not having either is bad, but having one of the two is great.
Yeah.
They're both good software, though.
Give that one a clap. That's a good one. Oh, okay. I think that's good. Are we satisfied with that answer? Does anyone else have anything to say? All right. What does the React team think about Leland's React primitives? Is the bridge between web and native considered at Facebook? I guess it's the at Facebook. So what does the React team think about Leland's React primitives, and is the bridge between web and native considered at Facebook? What's up?
For a question.
Yeah. Okay, I wish I were a React Native person up here. I don't have a. I like React primitives. I just don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question. Does anyone have a strong opinion on this? Sorry. Do you have a strong opinion on this?
I think you're the right person to answer.
I think it's cool. I just don't have anything interesting to say about it. Like yes to all of the things that Leland said in his talk. So I'm just curious if there's someone who can say something besides that. We're giving very short, boring answers right now. Everyone's going to want to leave.
I'm not the right person to answer this question. But, I have talked to Sebastian Markvage and Tom Okino at length about it, and I think there are like issues around sort of picking one, and I think that's like Tom's excited about everything, so he's just like, hey, let's put it in React. But I think that there would be a lot of problems with that, and so I don't know. I think that we're gonna just have to continue to experiment in user space until the community's clearly converged on something.
Yeah, maybe just as a meta answer to this, as Kevin said yesterday, sometimes it's not good to just jump on something immediately, and it's good to see where the community takes something. So if like React Primitives gets a ton of traction, maybe we will consider trying to make it more of a, I don't know, built into React or something like that. But who can say right now?
I guess
like your talk, Kevin.
Yeah, nobody can say. So. Those are the thoughts. Next question. When should we not, with not all caps, use GraphQL? I think, yeah, I just looked at Lee, so I guess.
I'm sure there are plenty of cases where you wouldn't. I don't know. There's such a plethora of tools out there. You should never assume that one tool is going to be the right fit for all problems. That's totally insane. I think GraphQL is a great fit for when you're serving a product over the internet and that's like has a heavy data dependency. I would not use GraphQL to like replace Hadoop. Like that I would definitely not do. You've thought about this a bunch too, haven't you?
So let me speak up in favor of REST for a moment.
Yes.
REST is great for a lot of things. One advantage is that it's very simple. For example, if you're at a hackathon or if you're just trying something out and you are very suspicious that your idea is bad and you don't want to waste very much time on it. And it might touch a bunch of different environments. You have a weird backend server, a weird client. You can be pretty confident that you can jam REST in there. I think this is one of these cases where it often makes sense to hack up a quick little REST thing, and then later, when you start running into problems, consider going to GraphQL. And I think the earlier question as well about Flow and TypeScript, if I were to defend not using Flow or TypeScript, the best time to do so is just when you're starting on a new project and hacking around and maybe you don't want to commit yet. Because for these technologies, you can always upgrade to the more advanced, more sophisticated one later.
Okay. What are the benefits of using Relay Modern over Apollo and vice versa?
Yeah, I knew we'd get this one. You can't go wrong if you choose either of them. So the two of us, like our two teams, talk to each other a lot, and we made sure that like the top best practices for clients are in both platforms. That said, the two teams have some differing priorities in how we build things. So for Apollo, I'm gonna like put words in their mouth since I'm not on their team. But from what I understand, it's really important to them that it's really easy to use GraphQL. So that's like the first priority. And then all the other things are also important, like making something that's high performance that you can use in production, all that other good stuff that Apollo Client does. For Relay Modern, like our top priority is not making it so that everyone in the community can use Relay Modern. Obviously we want that, but that's not the most important thing to us. The most important thing to us is that it works really well for our products at Facebook. So we have that thing like super tuned to be really efficient on mobile devices. So that ends up leading us to like slightly different architectural conclusions. So it's kind of similar to like what's better, MobX or Redux. It's like they're both great, but they have slightly different trade-offs. I say like Apollo Client is more similar to Redux in its architecture, and Relay Modern is a little bit more similar to MobX in its architecture. But there's actually way more similarities between the two than there are differences. So like as long as you're picking one, you're probably in good shape. But to Kevin's point, maybe don't pick either of them at first. If you're just like trying to build something new, start with fetch or curl or whatever the easiest way to hit a web endpoint is.
All right. I was told to scroll up because I missed the question. Thing is, the questions are shifting in priority as people vote, so you know you can't blame me entirely for this, but I'll do my best. I don't really understand this question. I'm going to read it, and maybe you guys will understand. CSS and JS or local styles? Right? It's a maybe could someone clarify what that means? Because it's pretty popular. It was like 18 people understood it.
Maybe 18 people just want to know what it means.
yeah, there you go. Well, I guess we can't really answer that one. Yeah, no, okay. Does it make sense to move everything from React state to Redux store and pass down everything as a prop?
Okay, I will say this because I have very strong feelings on this topic. So I feel like there are a lot of reasons why people use Redux. Some people use it for data fetching. I would say maybe try to use Relay or Apollo instead. Some people use it to replace component state. Sometimes that makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I get frustrated when I see things in Redux that seem like they make more sense as component state, and then I ask the person why they put it there, and they can't really give me a good reason other than because it's Redux. I do think that the reason people tempted to put things in Redux instead of component state is often driven by like, maybe the set state API could be a lot better, and I'm not going to argue too much with that because the set state API clearly creates some confusion sometimes. But component state in general, if you just ignore the specific way it's implemented now with set state, I think is really powerful, and it's the most idiomatic way to build state in React for obvious reasons. Thing is, when you like put stuff into the Redux store, you're basically putting it into a giant global store. And you're losing out on the nice stuff about component state, which is that it's local to a component. When the component gets unmounted, the state gets unmounted as well. In Fiber, there's going to be even more cool things about component state, which is that set state will have a priority based on where that component is in the tree. So I talked a little bit, for instance, I talked a little about off-screen priority yesterday. in React Fiber, we're going to be able to prioritize things based on where things are on the tree, whether or not they're on the screen or not, for instance. And if you put things in Redux, that just, you don't have that ability anymore. Everything is just in this giant store. So I just ranted a little bit. But yeah, my general rule of thumb is try putting things into component state first and only move things into Redux once you find a good reason for it. Also consider trying out Relay or Apollo or something like that, which I think is a lot better for data fetching.
Cool. The most upvoted question currently is React in 5 years. Your thoughts?
I feel like Leland's presentation gave us like the clearest view into the future. That if we like look at, he literally had it on a timeline, so we can kind of like project, right? That when React first started, it was super focused on the web. It was a little misunderstood. The ideas started to like sink in, and then React Native, and now React Native on more platforms. So we can kind of see it like leading to more platforms. I think we'll see that. I think what's actually more interesting is seeing the implications of React play out in non-React environments. So seeing projects like components for iOS or Litho, which are heavily inspired by React, but they are written in Objective-C and Java, respectively, and seeing the stuff that we've learned from building stuff in React kind of work its way backwards into the FRP environment. So like watching the stuff that's happening in the React community spread to other communities so that those projects can then like learn from those things and grow and then like come back and influence React itself. We've seen a lot of that in the last like year in particular, so I'm kind of excited to see what 5 years down the line of just like more of the software developer community like sharing these ideas around look like.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think we'll see a lot more work with renderers. We're making that available and opening it up with Fiber, which should allow people to write their own DOM renderers and any renderer you like. And also, I think there's a lot of work to be done with compilation at build time. So if that's performance or reducing size, we can do a lot of that work beforehand at build time, and it can help improve applications.
So a slightly different prediction here. I think when people are deciding on a tech stack, it's common nowadays to first decide on your application server. For example, you might go with Rails or Django, and then later on you think about what you use for JavaScript on your web client. I think it'll become more and more common for people to decide on React first, and then pick the server-side technology that makes the most sense with that. So what we see today with things like Next.js and Gatsby, where we take a very React-inspired approach and design the server based on that, I think that'll become more and more common. And probably those tools and tools like it will become a lot more popular.
To add even more to this question, I think that there's, when I look at React on the web, there are a couple of things that I think are really limiting right now in order to reach kind of full potential. One of those things is that JavaScript is single-threaded, which is one of the reasons why React Native is so interesting, is because you now have the power to sort of offload things to a non-single-threaded environment. I think the things that Lynn talked about with WebAssembly kind of give us a preview that maybe that won't always be true for the web, and that might allow the web to really kind of enter in as a real competitor, and like how React kind of works with that, I think is pretty interesting. I had a tweet, I think, which I'm honestly curious if this question is in reference to at all, but I said in 2 years, I think that React and React Native will still be very popular and highly used, but in 5 years, I think they won't. But I think that whatever will be highly inspired by React and probably not in JavaScript. And I think that there seems to be a clear movement towards very functional languages with really elegant type systems. And I think that we may sort of move in that direction and maybe have JavaScript as a target for some platforms or environments or something, but that we might actually be writing in something else.
So the question was about where React's headed, but I think that another interesting thing that we could see in 5 years is platforms heading towards React and the ideas that React has brought. There's actually been some chatter about introducing APIs into the platform, like the Fiber reconciler gives you this change list, making it possible to pass off a change list actually to the platform, to the web. So you might actually see things in outside of React where the platforms are moving towards adopting this way of working with code.
All right. This question is very popular. It's not so specific to anything really about React or really that sort of ecosystem, but I guess it's a problem that a lot of people run into. And the question is, what's the best way to share code/components across projects? NPM, shared libraries / Git submodules, or what else?
There isn't one. Go build it.
I can talk about how we do this at Facebook. So at Facebook, we have a monorepo, which means none of those options that are up on the screen. And it actually works really well for us. We've tried some of these other ones, and they fail in one really particular important way that monorepos really help solve, which is whenever you make a change to a component or a shared library, the most important thing is knowing who is broken now because you've made that change. And in the NPM ecosystem, we have like semver, and we just trust that people will eventually update to your latest version of that library and keep working. But when you have a company that's sharing tons and tons of libraries and components, that can become a massive burden, where every morning you wake up to work on your product, and the first thing you have to do is try to update everything. And a product like Facebook typically has many different pieces of products that all need to kind of like seamlessly jump between each other. And the last thing we want is like 30 different versions of every library being pushed to our clients all the time. So that would be terrible. So in a monorepo, we just use folders. So you put it in a folder and you call it a day. And when you update it and it breaks stuff, well, then it's your responsibility to go make sure all the things that you've broken are not broken. And that's awesome, because if you're a product developer, you can basically assume at any point in time that you're essentially using like the master branch, so to say, of all of the different libraries that are in use. And we do the same thing when we open source stuff almost all the time. We're almost always essentially using the master branch of our open source projects as the default version that we're using internally.
Yeah, we do the same thing at Expo. Monorepo works great. Anyone else? I'll get on that. Yeah, okay. Next question. Are there any plans to improve the story around animating a component on unmount, such that you are not dependent on your parent in order to support it?
I guess not.
Yeah, that seems to indicate an absence of plans. But maybe someone who isn't here is planning it, so. Okay, should I build my next app in ReasonReact?
Oh boy, okay. My question, huh?
Yeah, your question.
Yeah, go for it. So I'm clearly biased, right? But, should I build my next app in Reason? Don't forget that, and this is a question I get a lot. A related question is, should we just go ahead and like rewrite the whole world in Reason? Like, I have never, ever said that, okay? And people quote me on that somehow, but I guess that's what happens when you do these kind of talks. I am extremely against the stance of trying to rewrite everything from scratch. From personal experience too. And which is why Reason's shiny point is interop with JavaScript in this case in particular. And when I said about this gradual typing thing in my talk and gradual adoption in general, I was extremely serious about this. You can gradually adopt Reason into your code base. If you can't, come on Discord and ping me and tell me why you can't. And I table slam my way through these kind of decisions. I said, we must have these kind of interop, Jordan, or it doesn't fly. So really, if you're comfortable with JavaScript, whatever, do it right now. But I'm telling you, the reason, technically, most of the pieces are there for your next ReasonReact app or React app or whatever. If you are not ready to mentally make the leap yet, or if you don't think your team is supporting you, which is the important part, and the upper management and all, then don't do it and then wait a little bit more. But if you think you can handle all of that, technically and emotionally from the management, then go ahead, sure, whatever.
Okay. There's some silly question about a sticker. I don't know. If someone has a yarn sticker in the back or whatever, then Christopher wants it, and he unfollowed Sam Ciccone to get it. So, is that how you say his name? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Christopher, if you come up, you can have the stickers.
This is prime trolling back here going on right now. That's what happens when you unleash Sebastian on Twitter.
All right. Now I need to find where I was again. Okay. Javier asks, to the Airbnb engineer, I think that's Leland, maybe Devin. Devin's out there somewhere, maybe some other people. How do you combine building your amazing architecture with evolving the product?
By having people other than me evolve the product. At Airbnb, there's largely sort of two separate organizations. There's the infrastructure teams and product teams. And the infrastructure teams are sort of at the service of the product teams. And so we try to build things that make their lives as easy as possible and make it so that they can create great products. But the great product is not because of me, only the infrastructure. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question or not.
Yeah,
but
I think that applies generally to like Facebook as well, where you have product
not a
infrastructure
unique
teams.
situation.
And so maybe someone at Facebook can discuss a little bit about how
Well,
you
I think
manage
this
that.
has come up in a bunch of presentations where whenever we're building things, we're really cautious about making sure that we can incrementally adopt whatever infrastructural change we're making. That way product changes can always be happening. There have been a couple times in Facebook's history where we've basically like stopped all product development to do some major infrastructural project, and it's almost always ended up being hugely painful and a flop. So we basically promised ourselves that we wouldn't do that anymore. React has a really awesome release strategy where if you don't get any warnings, you can safely upgrade to the next major version without any problems. You might get extra warnings to fix, but you can always do that. That's like a side effect of this process that we've had at Facebook for a long time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really liked about when I joined Facebook. Is I realized, I guess I knew this, but so if we introduce a breaking change in React, it's not the product developer's responsibility to like if we break something, it's not the product developer's responsibility to go and like fix all of them. Like we have to fix it. Like when we do a sync. So every once in a while we do a sync from GitHub to our internal mono repo, and we run like directly off of the master branch in GitHub. So if we break something, that's on us. We have to go and fix all of the X components that broke, which means that we not only do we want to care about incremental migration, we do, because there's just no way that we have over 30,000 React components. There's no way we can go and rewrite all of them or like manually fix all of them. We have to rely on code mods or incremental migration paths in order to maintain all of that. And I really like that about the way we do open source and things in general, does things, infrastructure versus product in general at Facebook. It's really cool.
Is Sebastian around here still? Did he wander off? There he is. Okay, got a Babel question. So where is Babel going when ES6 is supported well enough? Like probably in the near future. Oh, guest panelists. Hey.
It would probably die. I mean, if it's not necessary anymore, why does it need to exist? I mean, so I guess to a point, Babel is kind of unnecessary now, since like if you're using certain ES6 features which are only like supported in the browsers that you target, then you probably like don't need it. But I think Babel serves a place if you want to do like certain transforms. So for example, like JSX, you need a transform for that, so that kind of like stays around. Like even stuff like styled components, you might want to pre-compile those to optimize them. And yeah, a Babel transform helps with that. And I don't think those sorts of problems are going away. So it'll probably stick around for a bit longer.
Cool.
I just want to add a couple of pieces to that. So it goes away if you only rely on modern browsers that support all of the JavaScript features that you want to use. But if you're like Facebook and you support older browsers because tons and tons of people still use them, then you end up still using Babel. So one of the features that's going to be better supported in the next version of Babel is kind of like a target-focused compilation. So if you're targeting a newer browser, fewer transforms happen. If you're targeting an older browser, more transforms happen, and you can build multiple outputs. I think that's really exciting. And then the JavaScript technical committee is continuing to move at like the same pace that they have been moving for the last couple of years. So I think we'll continue to see more and more. Are there funny questions happening? You guys are all laughing. I don't know if you're laughing at me or if you're laughing at the screen. Cool. But as long as like the JavaScript technical community or committee is continuing to like work through new features, we'll always have like the latest and greatest things that aren't in browsers yet, and Babel will continue to be the tool that we use to use those. So if you're using decorators, that's not part of the official spec yet. If you're using async generator functions and async iterables, which are really cool, that are like probably going to be in the next iteration of the spec, but haven't hit stage 4 yet. But like all those are far enough along that you can use them now, and Babel supports them.
I'll add like one extra thing on. So sometimes I hear from people, or I see this opinion expressed that there's a certain resistance to Babel purely because it involves a compile step or a build step. And I have to say, I never really understood this resistance. I think certain people have this philosophical or like ideological rejection or resistance to having to do anything to their code before they ship it to the browser. And if that's the case, you might want to get over that, because if anything, I think we're going to only be doing more and more stuff at compile time, like Dominic was saying earlier. I mean, it's very important for things like Relay. There's cool frameworks out there like Svelte, which are totally based on this concept. One day we'll probably all be compiling to WebAssembly maybe. I mean, if you're using Reason, that involves compiling to JavaScript. So if you still have this like resistance to an idea of a build step or to the idea of compilers, please question yourself, like, why do I feel this way? And try. And I encourage you to try and get over this maybe emotional reaction you're having, or like ideological reaction you're having, and look at all the cool stuff out there, because it's cool if you just let yourself be open to the idea.
I gotta scroll back up. What are the parts in Facebook products that have been improved or will be improved with Reason, and how?
That's surprising. A second question about Reason.
There's more.
Whoa.
There's more.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, can you repeat the question?
Sure.
that was a little bit.
You just heard the word Reason at the end, and we're like, oh, we need to pay attention. Okay. What are the parts in Facebook products that have been improved or will be improved with Reason, and how?
Reason currently is using 2 products and more coming. The main one that is user-facing right now is Messenger.com, we converted a few sections over. I just basically went in and randomly converted things. That's a heuristic for, again, like I said, interrupt and how good it actually works out in production. And it has been indeed preventing a lot of bugs. And we do have, well, data, informal data, but we do have data to demonstrate that. So it's used there. Performance-wise, we haven't measured it. It's slightly better when you look at the output, but you know, don't talk about performance when you don't measure. So I'm not going to talk about it. Onboarding has been, it's there also. Like we have, I've had more than a few boot campers who barely came into React, work on reason-related tasks for Messenger, and that has gone relatively well too. We also have, for the native compilation side, we have an internal tool, server callable, which is like, anyways, it's an internal tool for developers, and this has seen huge performance boost from conversion to Reason native. Like, I'm not actually exaggerating. These are actually the number, but the performance boost is actually 300-fold, not 300%, 300-fold. But again, native is work in progress in terms of tooling and all, and this was one of the, you know, one of the efforts. But we're focusing more on the JavaScript side, and Messenger.com would be that. Thanks.
All right. With Dominic now working at Facebook, is there work to be done to slim down the React library size?
I kind of went over this yesterday, but the thing is, we're hopefully taking all the things that other libraries have done and my work from Inferno into the API and the internals, and seeing where we can like remove things or refactor things and make things faster, smaller. And there's a huge amount of research going into this, but it's not a fast process. We don't want to break things. We've got lots of, a massive ecosystem, lots of apps depending on stability, and to go through and make crazy changes and break things isn't what we want to do. So it's about steadily, incrementally improving React. So yeah, I think we should be able to do it. Yeah.
Cool. Do you think the web platform will ever grow to the point to make React useless?
No. I think React's far more than just a web, and that's a big takeaway. You've got all these different platforms using React paradigm, and the web isn't just one of those now. It's like, it's a huge amount out there.
That said, I think that there are a few abstractions in React that could easily be brought to the platform. And so the role that React plays might be smaller. And it might actually get to the point where it's small enough where React is not enough of a value add anymore, where it has the dominance that it does today. Go ahead.
I think that's possible. I think it's, well, there's two things. One, I think it's great if the web starts to pivot and focus on features that are useful for React and frameworks like that, even if that doesn't necessarily mean adding JSX support or something like that, or adding the exact API to the platform. The thing is, those types of things tend to lag. If they build React into if some committee comes in along and standardizes React or standardizes a very React-like solution, it's probably going to be in several years, and or 5 or 6 years, and by that time, I don't know, hopefully React has moved beyond that, or there's some other really cool. I have a feeling that if something replaces React, it's not going to be the browsers building it into it's not going to be the browser vendors building it into browsers. It'll be some other cool thing that we can't even imagine right now that'll come along and just change the whole game. That's what I think is more likely than it's just oh, React is the answer, let's just build it into everything and delete the library. But who knows?
I mean, recently I made a poll on Twitter regarding standardizing JSX, and also I spoke to the guys at Chrome and and Mozilla regarding what if we brought virtual DOM actually into the browsers. And some people were keen and others weren't. But the thing was, if that did happen, it would make it much harder for us to change things, the underlying things. If we wanted to improve JSX, make JSX 2, then we'd have to go back to them and say, hey, now you need to update to JSX 2, and it would take them 2 years. Everyone would have to Babel, compile their code again, and you would have the same problem as you've got now.
But if you were able to possibly decouple it a little bit and ship it down as something that's not part of React, but that's running, not actually part of a versioned browser, then you might actually be able to not have the slowness that you would have if all of the browsers have to coordinate. And so then it's actually not built into the browser, but it might not be part of React at that point.
I mean, yeah, the thing is that wouldn't really be part of the web standard. I mean, well, ideally, we want to do that. Spelt's doing that already with build tools, and you could build away React, but you're still essentially using React. I mean, the whole thing around it is hard. Is it on the if you're shipping React to a client, does it mean you're not? Or if you're not shipping it, does it? You know, it's a complicated one to understand, like when you're using compilation tools.
So I've got something that around that, just because we use React a lot, and obviously we're like working with it on mobile. And so I'd like to see the browsers create more APIs that allow React to offload some of the work to the browser, as part of what you're saying about getting off the main thread. So that's kind of like really, I think, maybe a middle ground where there might be more work that we can pass off to the browser in the meantime. And that would maybe allow React to get thinner and do less work in JavaScript, but kind of do the same work, but just pass that off to the browser.
Yeah, I was going to say something along those lines. My hope is that browser vendors focus not on like high-level user APIs so much, but on because again, like those, once you put something into a standard, it's going to be a lot harder. It's just inherently going to be a lot slower for those things to change versus like user space libraries. My hope is they focus on these lower-level tools that we can build stuff on top of, because the velocity of like the open source community and all of us is always going to be faster than trying to get things into all of the major browsers. One small example of this is a really cool API called request idle callback. Has anyone heard of this? I think someone asked Jordan on Twitter like recently, like, what's your favorite browser? Maybe it was his React-to-Flux Q&A or something. Someone asked Jordan like, what's his favorite feature that browser vendors have added recently, and he said request idle callback. And if you don't know what this is essentially the thing that allows React Fiber, as it's currently written, to time slice work, because it's a scheduling API where you give the browser a callback, and it calls it during the next idle period. And then it gives that callback when it calls it a deadline, so that the callback knows when it needs to yield, and it lets us do this cooperative multitasking thing and split the work into chunks. And that's a really cool API that didn't exist until very recently. And in fact, it's really only supported in Chrome, as far as I know. It's not even supported. Now it's supported in Firefox as well. These are the types of APIs which don't even seem like all that fancy. Like maybe a normal product developer wouldn't even think of this as like the sexiest feature they could possibly want. But these are the types of things that let you build things like Fiber, like the next really cool thing, and move the web forward. Not necessarily these like higher level APIs that maybe are easier to grasp or something like that.
Okay, so we're running pretty low on time now. Let's do some rapid fire questions. One person answer, maybe like as few words as possible. I'm gonna get the 2 top voted questions out of the way first, because they're trolls. Will Ian Thomas marry me? I don't know, ask him. Why not use PHP instead? Anybody?
PHP is awesome, use PHP.
Cool. Such a diplomat.
We use it at Facebook, it's great.
Oh, okay. Speaking of using things at Facebook, is MobX used at Facebook?
I don't think so.
No, maybe not. We don't know. Uncertain.
All teams are given the ability to use their own tools, but as far as I know, no team is using MobX specifically.
But I don't even think we use. I know we use Redux in some things. There's just it's not like we hate MobX or anything. I don't want that to be interpreted that way.
Okay, here's one that we can answer in probably 20 seconds. What are the next big challenges / goals for React, Relay, and GraphQL?
I feel like we just heard the ones for React.
Yeah.
For GraphQL, it's supporting more use cases. So subscriptions is top of mind, more real-time use cases, more ways to stream data from servers rather than the typical request-response loop is a lot of what we're looking at. And then Relay is just like a way to sit between the two. So Relay is always like looking for things that product developers are bumping into next and trying to solve those problems.
Cool. When should we use GraphQL over REST APIs?
Just flip a coin.
Sounds good. Does React Native have any plans to solve the performance and high memory usage of list view, such as building native list view using UI table view?
There was recently this flat list component that came out, which is pretty promising. And if you're still using the one called list view, then you should check out flat list, and all your wildest dreams will come true.
Cool.
Also, you should talk to Tal Cole after this if you want to know more about that.
That's Tal Cole. What do the panel think of the approach taken by Next.js, mainly the focus on server rendering and prefetching dependencies at the route level? You have 15 seconds.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Next is, yeah, if you want to do server-side rendered React, definitely check out Next.
Cool. Look at Next. I'm hungry. Go eat. Is React the new jQuery?
No comment.
No comment. Any approximate idea when React 16 will be released?
The official answer, which is the one I'm about to give you, is by the end of the year.
Okay, I think that's enough. Let's all have some food. Some guy was hungry, so yeah. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the conference.